Hey guys, what's up? Guardian here, coming to you guys with a video today showing you my blaster deck. So, it's been quite a long time since I've actually profiled this deck on the channel. I think the last update I gave of it was in September last year when G-EB02 came out, because of course we got a big boy Ganslot back then. But yeah, lately I've been messing around with the deck. I've included things like Alfred into the deck now, and Holy Squire Dragon, which I've only been testing the deck for a couple of weeks, so there definitely could be room for improvement, but I'm actually pretty happy with where I've got the deck at the moment, but I can see it changing definitely in the future, depending if we get any more support. And also, I kind of want to integrate Ultima into this build as well, but I have no idea what I'm going to take out for Ultima, so we'll have to just come to that bridge when we get to it. So in the meantime, I'm going to show you guys what I've been playing with. But yeah, it's a very cool build, this, because the cool thing I like about it is it kind of has a thing for all occasions, sort of thing. So we'll go through the standard things. So we have 4 copies of Exceed, of course, pretty much your main Vanguard of the deck. You want to go into him just as normal. The cool thing with the deck now, though, is you now have access with Alfred, because the reason we're playing Alfred is so that we can get into our Holy Squire Dragon. And for those that don't know, Holy Squire requires you to have an Alfred heart, so that's kind of why we have to play the Alfred, so that we can actually use his ability to unlock our rear guards. But the cool thing with Holy Squire, not just because of the unlock, but it also powers up our rear guards by 2k. Which is actually pretty good for some number fixing and just power gains in general. But also he gains a Generation Break 3 ability where he gains 3k power for every rear guard we have. So at max field, he'll be gaining a 15k boost. So he'll be at a 41k attack, which is pretty good overall. So not only do you unlock everything, but you're also coming at them with a ton of power as well. So that's really nice. So that's basically the reason to why you see Alfred getting thrown into decks now. For those for those that didn't know, for that unlocking. But the reason I only went for 2 was because since my deck is still a draw-based version, I feel as though the draws sort of explain why I only run 2, because I can use the draws to deck thin even more and have more potential opportunities to see that Alfred. Also, with the quad drive capabilities from Ganslot and the 5 drive check turns you have from the Alfred Stride and the Blaster Blade Twin Drive, you just deck thin so heavily and just draw so much that unless you are really unlucky and you just both your Alfreds go into the damage zone, you will see them eventually. Which is actually pretty good, because you could play against a Link Joker matchup normally with your Exceed players. Just as you play the deck anywhere. But then in the mid to late game, during the striding, you can then just ride into the Alfred and then just unlock everything with Holy Squire, which is really cool. However, I wanted to use Alfred not just for the unlocking capabilities. So the other cool thing with Alfred is that he actually has a pretty good rush capability on the grade 3 ride. So let's say you ride grade 3, and your opponent is still on grade 2, so you're getting the first grade 3 ride. You can actually take this to your advantage and deal high amounts of pressure to your opponent. So the reason because of this is because of Lou. So something you can do with Alfred is on the grade 3 ride, so your opponent's on either a 10k or a 9k base, you can ride the Alfred, use the skill, so as long as you've got a Blaster or a Sword of Light card in your soul, you can counterblast 1, soul blast 1, then discard a card. Then you search your deck for 2 Blaster or Swords of Light units with different grades, call them to the rear guard circle, and yeah, you're good to go. So what you can do is do that. Then the card that you Soul Blast can actually be the card from your soul with the Blaster card, the Blaster name, because you only need the Blaster in the soul to activate it. Once you've activated it, you don't need it anymore. So you can activate it, Soul Blast the Blaster Blade unit out, and then you call out a Lou with a Barkle. And this is really cool, because not only do you get Lou's skill off now to then shuffle that Blaster Blade unit back into your deck now, but you've also set up a Barkle column as well for your next turn. So This is giving you good setup to when you actually start striding in your next turn, because you could then potentially ride into your exceed next turn and start going and go from there. But also you've got a pretty powerful column here, because Lou will get the +5, so he's 16, and then plus the 7 from the Barcode boost will push him to 23, which is actually a pretty good number, you know, bearing in mind that your opponent is on either a 9 or a 10k base. So not only do they have to deal with a twin drive from your Vanguard, but they also have to deal with the fact that you have a 23k rear guard column as well, which is pretty damn cool. So yeah, that's something cool that you can do with the Alfred as well. So he's not just, you know, he's not just a pretty face for your Holy Squire Dragon to stride on. He's actually got some pretty good rush capabilities as well on the grade 3 ride. So you've got rush from grade 2 and also grade 3, which is actually pretty cool. So yeah, it's happened a couple of times, and it's really effective, surprisingly. So it's quite nice that you can still do that, as well as having the utility factor of Alfred in the deck. Plus, I wanted to go with the 2 Lou instead of just 1, because it really suck if this got like damage checked. Then you've literally just got no cards in your deck that recycle your Blaster Blades, and with that you're talking like, you know, post Legend deck days, like before GBT11, and it just sucked when you had no way of recycling Blaster Blade. It really did suck. So yeah, I just wanted to keep the 2 Lus in the deck. And also the positive with this lineup as well is that since you got a heavy grade 3 count, this actually is a good counter toward any Drachma players that you could go against, because with Dragon Empire decks being more of a thing, especially with Kagero, Drachma is definitely a threat. And it's definitely nice to be able to cater this deck towards, you know, fighting against Link Joker with the Alfred, having that rush play with Lou, but then also counteracting Drachma with multiple grade 3s. So you have that guaranteed, well, not guaranteed, but you have more of a chance to ride a decent 11k base so that you can fight against the Drachma. So that's really cool. So those are the grade 3s. So we'll just leave those up here. And we'll go into the grade 2s, which are a little bit more simple. So we have, of course, our Avatar, 4 copies of Blaster Blade, key piece of the deck, essentially. Got to run 4 of him. Then, of course, we have, next to him, 4 copies of Lou, which is also crazy, because 19k attacks just destroy rear guard sometimes, and potential multiple attacks is also really cool. Now, one of the new cards, which you probably just saw, is, well, not technically new. This card came out in GBT11, but it's new in terms of me using it, though, which is 2 copies of Aspire Painter. Now, for those that don't know this card, it's a grade 2 with GB1. It says, when it's placed on the rear guard circle from hand, if you have a Vanguard with Alfred or Blaster in the card name, you get to counter charge 1, soul charge 1, and this unit gets 3k power until end of turn. So there's a couple of applications of this card that I like. If you are on the Alfred Vanguard, the one thing that's bad about it is that it will turn your Barcles offline, which means you won't be able to you're counter charging more, because of course you need a Blaster Vanguard in order for this to work. So that was an issue that I did see happen when I was testing the deck with Painter. So sorry, without Painter, but after including Painter in the deck, I then noticed it was actually quite good, because it gave me an alternative route to countercharging and not relying on Barkle all the time. So it actually made the Alfred turns actually not as much of a drawback, actually more of a positive. So that was really cool. Plus the Soul Charge does come in handy, because considering Alfred does Soul Blast you, so you can refund the Soul Blast back so that you can G-Guard with Merrin or Perfect Guard with Lien, which is also really cool. And the additional 3k actually comes in handy as well, because that pushes it to 12, so it can attack on its own. But even if you boost it with a 4k, which is basically any of your triggers, that's a 16k column. So you could boost this with like a Margol, a Flogel, or an Arangal, and then later on either use their skills, like Arangal and Margol. You can use their skills to move them into Soul to then free that spot up for something else. But if you had a Flogel behind this, you could just freely intercept with this card, knowing that it's only till end of turn anyway. You could freely intercept with it, And then you've got a Flogel in the back, which could then be set up for something like Lou, for example. And then you can go into like a Flogel play with a Blaster Blade and an Alfred Stride and stuff like that, which is really, really cool. So Aspire Painter, I think it's a very underlooked card, but I actually quite like it in this version just because I am running the Alfred Vanguard as well. Just to get around the whole clauses with Barkle and stuff like that. So yeah, I'd definitely give it a try if you haven't already. And then the last grade 2, of course, is just one Spirit. I'd like to run 2 of them in the deck technically, but I just can't fit a second one in, unfortunately. So yeah, just the one Spirit's fine. It's absolutely fine. Better than none anyway, so yeah. And the cool thing is that you could just Soul Blast this out with the Alfred, and then recycle it with Lou, and then reuse it with something like Altmile Stride, which is actually pretty cool as well, to get its effect off. So yeah. So moving into the grade 1s, we have, of course, 4 Lien, which is just the freest Perfect Guard in the world. Oh my god, this thing's amazing. The one thing I will say about it is that it kind of sucks in the early game because it doesn't work until you're on grade 3. The benefit with it is it's just so free late game that it really doesn't become a drawback. And to be honest, if you see these in your opening hand, just shuffle them back in. You know, as long as you got your grade 1, 2, and 3 stuff. Just shuffle them back in, and then because of things like Gancelot with your quad drives and stuff like that, you know, you're more than likely going to see them later on anyway, so it doesn't particularly matter. But yeah, it's really, really cool. Then we have, of course, 4 copies of Barkle, of course, because it makes Lou work on grade 2. It countercharges with Blaster Blade. It's a Barkle name for grade 1. There's so many applications that Barkle has, which is why he's good. But I'm also running 1 copy of Laura. Now, this is something that I've noticed people are dropping, and I completely understand why. It's because more and more units now are getting the abilities to target circles, which gets around resist, which is really interesting. But I still think Laura's got a bit of value to her just because of the Blaster name. She gives us that additional Blaster name for grade 1, so we don't have to waste a Barkle, potentially, and just save it for the rearguard columns for things like Lou and Blaster Blade. But it's also just more consistency overall as well. Plus, you know, the resist does come in handy sometimes. You know, there are decks where they do target your units, so having a resist booster can actually come in handy sometimes. But yeah, she's more there for the Blaster name, of course, and she's actually been pretty useful at 1. She's one of those units where you don't particularly care if she goes to the damage zone or not, so it's a nice one-off. And overall just makes the deck more consistent because you've got the more Blaster names. But yeah, then we have 2 Stride Fodder. 2's enough. You know, you've got 8 grade 3s in the deck anyway, and also your Exceeds can search for other Exceeds if need be for striding. So yeah, 2's absolutely fine. 10 seems to be like the magic number for me. Like in terms of grade 3 to Stride Fodder ratios, I tend to go for like 10 to 12 sometimes, but yeah, 10 is completely fine. And then finally for grade 1s, we have 3 copies of Merrin. Now, the reason why I'm running Merrin, in case you couldn't realise, but I took Trumpeter out of the deck. And this was something that I twigged onto actually really quickly into testing this new version of the deck, because I noticed that I lost the toolkit ability of Trumpeter being able to call my combo pieces out of the deck, like Flogel, for example. And the cool thing about that was that it gave the deck a bit of searchability and a bit more consistency to actually set the board up the way it wants to. And that's really, really cool. But I thought, oh man, if I take Trumpeter out for Painter, I'm losing that ability. So what could I do to replace it? And of course I thought, oh my god, I could just run Merrin instead. Because not only do I have the grade 1 slots for it to be put in, but it also gives me that ability again to use, which is really, really cool. Also, just for nostalgia factor, it's really nice to be able to run Merrin again. You know, like Aichi, but yeah, Merrin's just really nice. And even with the 7k base, if you call something like a Flogel out, it'll get +3. So it'd be 7 on 7, which means that's 14. So you can still attack a 9k rearguard and actually still apply some pressure to it, because that's a 10k guard they'd have to give up to protect that rearguard. So it's still pretty cool. But yeah, it's basically just because of this build that I had to go with Merrin instead of Trumpeter, because I wanted to play the Painter in the deck instead. So yeah, and then I might as well put the starter down here, Wingle Brave, of course. So yeah, that is basically the entire main deck, besides the triggers, which we'll get into now. So for the triggers, we have 4 copies of the amazing Flogel, Pink Doggo. Yeah, really, really cool. Of course, works of Lou, stands Blaster Blade, it's crazy. Don't need to explain too much about it. 4 Arangal, Soul Power, more crits, really cool. Then we also have the 4 Margul, literally just for the drawing aspect. Like I said, it's more of a diverse build, and since I'm only running the 2 Alfred, I feel as though it makes a bit more sense to run the draws in this version. Also, I kind of just like not fussing around with stands, you know, because with stands, you're kind of forcing yourself to at least play some sort of rear guard. Even though this deck will play rear guards, you know, definitely, it just gets around the hassle of, you know, having to have it to attack with a rear guard first, and then, you know, the thing with this deck is that your rear guard columns aren't huge, and they're not that threatening sometimes. But, you know, merge it with stands and multiple drive checks, they can do some work, but I personally just don't like that gameplay. And also, I just prefer the logic of going with the draw triggers to help draw into my deck even more, to see cards like Alfred if I am against that Link Joker matchup and stuff like that. So, yeah. And then finally, the 4 copies of Mascal. Funny story, this ability actually cropped up. And I was actually testing a version of the deck where I had 4 Merengi guards in the G-Zone. I know it sounds crazy, but, you know, that's what you've got testing for. And I kind of took Mascal out the G-Zone. And I had a situation where my opponent went into Zoa. And I realized, wow, I don't have a perfect guard to stop this. Okay, how much shield do I have? And I counted all my shield up, you know, including the 1 heal trigger that I had in my hand for a G-Guard. I thought, wow, I still can't guard this. I'm literally going to lose. And then I thought, oh wait, what I can do is that I can discard Mascal, go for the G-Guard Mascal, and because I do, I can then discard a grade 1 and draw a card, and potentially draw into the perfect guard, which could possibly save me. Or maybe another heal trigger, and, you know, use that as the additional shield that I needed. Maybe. Oh wait, I don't have Mascal in the G-Zone, do I? Well, that just sucks, doesn't it? So yeah, after that experience, I am not gonna misjudge this ability anymore, because I've always thought, nah, this ability's, you don't need it, it's fine, it's fine. No, sometimes you might. Sometimes you might. That really sucked. I triggered myself so heavily that day that I thought, wow, I hate the fact that I couldn't use my heal triggers ability. So yeah, lesson learned. Mascal is in the G-Zone now, so yeah. But yeah, anyway, that is the incomplete main deck done with. So we'll go into the G-Zone now. So we're running 2 copies of Gancelot. 2 is absolutely fine. Trust me, I've played 3 for over half a year, and I hardly ever went into the 3rd one. Like, hardly ever. I'm talking like maybe 2 or 3 occasions where I went into the 3rd Gancelot, and that's like over half a year. And I'm not even exaggerating. Like, the 3rd Gancelot rarely ever came up that I'd honestly prefer swapping that 3rd card slot for something else, just for the other cards in the G-Zone. So next we have 4 Alfred, of course. I tried taking this guy down to 2, but oh my god, it felt weird. And I just was not comfortable with it at all. So yeah, I just stuck the other 2 back in somehow. Can't remember how, but yeah, I got the other 2 Alfreds back into the deck. So I've got 4 Alfreds and 2 Gancelot now. I just feel normal now. So yeah, 4 Alfreds. He's just such a big playmaker in the deck. He's one of your big finishes, and yeah, I just can't play without 4 of him, unfortunately. 2 Altmile. I still think Altmile's good. He's definitely a toolkit card for Royals that I think is nice to always have 2 of, even though your deck may not use it. Like, you know, I'd be lying if I said I've never used Altmile. I've actually used Altmile a bit, but not a whole lot, because my turns either resolve around either going into a Gancelot or an Alfred, and that's like between 3 and 4 turns of striding. So the only reason that I don't go into Altmile is because I just don't need to. But for those occasions where I do need to go into him, he's there. So yeah, he's just a good toolkit card to have at your disposal. 4 Holy Squires, of course, because that's the reason why we put Alfred in the deck in the first place, so we can fight against Link Joker, unlock all of our stuff, get massive power boosts. Really, really cool. One is salt, so that we can get massive shields and block big attacks if we have a full board, which is possible, you know, it's not impossible, but yeah, having a 40k shield is pretty nice sometimes, I'm going to admit. One copy of Mascal, because I am not going to lose out on my heal triggers ability, which could potentially save my life. But yeah, for real though, you can actually use Mascal with just 4 G Guardians on deck, because the other two is too Marin, of course, because this is just such a good card. But yeah, you can typically go through a game and just use like one of this, one of this, one of this, because you'll be flipping the other G Guardian for this ability. But yeah, you don't necessarily go through all 4 G Guards in a game, so yeah, and it's fine. It's honestly fine. I know 4 G Guards for me is a bit weird, but it's actually alright. It's actually not as bad as I thought it would be. So yeah, so that is it for the deck. I'm actually really enjoying this build. It'll be interesting to see where Bushiroad goes with the deck in the future for blasters. Hopefully we get some new support for it within the next couple of sets, hopefully, because it looks like G-EB02 doesn't have anything. I don't know, they might just sneak something in, and I might look like an idiot, but hey yo. Yeah, so that is it for the deck. Hope you guys enjoyed. I do want to give a big shout out to Solemn Vanguard, also his website, Royalty Playmats. As you can guess, that's probably where I got this playmat from, because it's really, really cool. It's a custom playmat that I got made by him, and he makes custom playmats to sort of your design. Just, you know, have a conversation with him. I think he's got a contact page now on his website, last time I checked. So yeah, I'll put both the link to his website and also his YouTube channel, Solemn Vanguard, in the description. I'm pretty sure most of you know who he is by now. But yeah, he's really, really cool, and this playmat is just beautiful. So thank you very much, man, for the playmat. I really appreciate it. But yeah, that's it for the video. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys in the next one. So take care, guys, and I'll see you later.